Hey, this is Fling with DFSarmy, and this is your Battle Royale first look draft. All right, guys, so we're going to start with the game tiles. We're going to hop into a Battle Royale first look draft here in a second. The Battle Royale actually is a contest that's going to pay out $50K to first, week one of the NFL slate. It's a DFS draft on Underdog Fantasy. Really fun contest. 6-person draft, $50K to first. You're drafting against 5 other people, $7 entry fee. You can do 150 max. Draft takes about 5 minutes, and you get a chance to take a shot at 50K for week one. So, a couple things. We're going to look at the game tiles, see some games we may want to target. We're going to talk through a slate a little bit. It's going to be a little bit longer draft than I'm normally going to do each week because I also want to go over the winning trends from the last 2 years of the Battle Royale contest on Underdog Fantasy. But let's start with the game tiles. So one of the things that we want to do in DFS and specifically in large field GPPs is we want to look for some teams to target. We want to look for game environments that we might want to target that could potentially go off, and we can build around, we can draft around these type of games and potentially put ourselves in a position to be able to take down the tournament. So there's a couple of games that really stand out, and I'm not going to go through each and every one of these because for the purpose of this, we're essentially doing one draft, and we're only drafting 6 roster spots. So we don't need to pick from so many different games, essentially. So we're essentially going to try to get the best plays and, maybe target like a stack in, one game that's, we really want to target. So a couple games that jump out right away, you see here, this is courtesy of DFSarmy, the domination station. We get the game totals, we get the implied team totals. So Tampa Bay with the 25-point implied team total. We typically want to target teams that have a team total of over 24 points. So the higher, the better, essentially. So what this is Vegas is telling us this team is most likely to score 25 points. They're projected to win the game. They are, favorites, 2.5-point favorites, and they're projected to score 25 points. So typically, over the long run, it's positive expected value to target teams that have high implied team totals, like Tampa Bay does on this slate. So Tampa Bay, we got Baker Mayfield, we got Bucky Irving, we got Mike Evans, no Chris Godwin, no Jalen McMillian, not to worry. We got Egbuka, who has been killing it in, training camp in the preseason. So these are gonna slide in business as usual. This is a divisional game. There's firepower on the other side, with Penix and Drake London and Bijan Robinson, Mooney might play. So this is a game that could potentially shoot out. It's in a dome. We like that. We don't have to worry about weather. Not that that's really a big thing at the start of the year, but sometimes it can with rain and wind and whatnot. So this is potentially a game we want to target, and we want to lean the Tampa side. So that is one game that stands out. A couple others here. We got the Bengals going on the road to play Cleveland. Cleveland's going to be a bad team this year, and they're kind of silent tanking, if let's be honest. On the Bengals side, we know what they are on offense. They have all the horsepower. They have Joe Burrow. They have Jamar Chase. They have T. Higgins. They have Chase Brown. So Cincinnati, we know that they're a team that can score at will. However, they don't have a good defense. They haven't had a good defense. They really didn't do much in the offseason to fix that. And we got Joe Flacco on the other side, who's a very capable quarterback. So this is a game that actually projects like a game that could be back and forth. Now, they're still the 5.5-point favorites. Cincinnati, they're still favored a lot. And, the team that you really want to target, if the Browns are scoring, well, Joe Burrow and Chase and Higgins and the other Chase, like they're answering. So we really want to lean the Cincinnati side. But hey, maybe, there's good value in guys like Njoku and Tillman So those bring back options, or maybe if you're doing enough of these, you want to get super contrarian. You're going to just say, hey, let's just attack the Cleveland side of this. Maybe we'll have our Cincinnati bringbacks, but this is a game environment that I think projects for some goodness. One of the things we don't want to do is we want to stay away from these game totals that are really low, under 40 points. Sure, Vegas can certainly be wrong, especially in the beginning of the season, but overall, it's positive expected value to avoid these type of game environments that are projected for really low scoring. We really want to be targeting games that are over 45 points, sometimes like 44, 45. But the higher it is, typically the better it is that you're going to want to target. A couple other games that stand out, might be a little sneaky. Miami going on the road to face Indy. This game is almost a pick'em game. We're talking about like a half-point difference in the spread, 47-point implied team total. Miami defense was very poor in basically the preseason, like backups, starters, it didn't matter. They were just terrible. They were getting smoked in scrimmage. I think they were playing the Giants, and they were just getting torched. So, and the Giants are definitely no juggernaut. So I think Miami is going to be a team that we want to target this year in game stack scenarios. They're going on the road against an Indy team, against Daniel Jones, but that team, they do have a lot on offense. So I think this game environment could potentially be sneaky. Maybe we don't want to get too cute with it, but Jonathan Taylor, Devin Achon, Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, these types of players is certainly going to be in the mix. So a couple other spots that I like. We got the Commanders. I really just like the Commanders side of this game. And that's one of the things we're going to get into. You don't always have to game stack. Sometimes it's just finding the team that you want to be on that week. We got Jaden Daniels at quarterback here. And, Austin Eckler was named the starter. They signed Terry McLaurin. They got Deebo Samuel. So 25.75 implied team total. I think the Commanders are definitely going to be in play this week, as they are, most weeks. And kind of the last, I think, good game environment that we may want to look at. I guess there's kind of an underrated one here. Carolina going on the road to play Jacksonville. Carolina, same thing. Terrible defense. Jacksonville can score a lot against this Carolina team if we get good Trevor Lawrence. What kind of Trevor Lawrence are we going to get this year? He's got Brian Thomas Jr. He's got Travis Hunter. So this is going to be a high variance, type of stack or type of team stack that you want to target. But I do think Jacksonville is in play going against a very poor Carolina defense. And then really the last game environment that I like, that I think could shoot out, we got Detroit going on the road to play Green Bay. Green Bay with a 25-point implied team total. Now, we know what Detroit was last year, but they lost Ben Johnson this year. We don't know that their offense is going to be the same as it was last year, but they still do got a lot of great players. Jahmyr Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams, Sam Laporta. Is it going to be business as usual? Did Vegas get it wrong, or are they going to take a step back? Of course, the Packers, they got Micah Parsons now, so they're going to make things a little more difficult for Detroit. But, the Packers certainly have their fair share of playmakers too. For me, I'm probably not going Jordan Love sacks this week. With a rookie quarterback or wide receiver especially. I like Josh Jacobs on this side of it. And obviously, we'll kind of get into some of the plays that we might want to target. I want to talk about specifically the Battle Royale contest on Underdog Fantasy and how to win. One of the things that we do at DFS Army, we like to kind of teach, we like to back test, see what's working for various contests. Because one of the, most effective ways to win these large field GPP contests, and it's why we've had so many actual $50K, $100K, $1 million winners at DFS Army through, DraftKings, FanDuel, and whatnot. And even on Underdog, we had Ray, who won the puppy last year. But one of the things, we want to do is see what's winning. What is winning? What are the pros doing? So I actually looked back at the 2023 and 2024 winners of this contest to kind of get an idea of what's working. So we give ourselves the best chance when we go into these drafts with actionable information to attack as many of these drafts as your bankroll allows. And, to have a good chance of actually taking down the contest. So stacking, that goes without saying in DFS. Past 2 years, like it's 95% those lineups were stacked of some sort. So, um, and primary stack is going to be the most common, and then what that really is a quarterback plus one of his pass catchers. Now, there were 6 instances last year where the quarterback was not stacked with any of his pass catchers. And in every one of those instances, it was a quarterback who runs a lot. So we're talking Jalen Hurts, we're talking Anthony Richardson, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Jaden Daniels, and even Bo Nix in week 18. So that's one of the things. Like, you typically want to try to have a sack, but if you got one of those quarterbacks that's a running quarterback, you don't necessarily need to force a stack if, it doesn't line up. If you got Lamar Jackson and they took, Mark Andrews and Zay Flowers, then just run them naked, essentially. Or, if it's a team that it's really hard to guess the target share in any given week, the target share is very spread out, but their quarterback consistently scores, that would also be another scenario where you don't necessarily need to stack them. That said, if you did not stack your quarterback, almost all the teams had some type of secondary stack. In fact, 47% of teams had a secondary stack. And I believe 29% of those had a primary and secondary stack, but about 95% of teams had some sort of correlation. So it's very important. What I mean by secondary stack is this could be Jamar Chase and Chase Brown. This could be Devin Achane and Tyreek Hill. Like, if you don't get your quarterback stacked with the pass catcher, you could certainly you need some correlation in your lineup. What you're doing is correlating and, having to have less things to predict right so that you potentially have a ceiling outcome. Now, we talk about half PPR on Underdog Fantasy. So it's very touchdown dependent. And what that means is you're typically going to want to target running backs in the flex because they score touchdowns at a much higher rate. So in 2024, 88% of Battle Royale winners had a running back in the flex. Even in 2023, I believe it was about 2/3 of the team still had a running back in the flex. So it's very important. You really want to it's about 75% of the time, a running back in the flex is what you need to win. So when you're drafting, you have the option. We're going to go over like the actual breakdown. In fact, we'll just scroll up here a little bit of the contest, but it's 1 quarterback, 1 running back, 2 wide receivers, 1 tight end, and 1 flex. So on pretty much every team that I draft, because running back is in the flex so often, I'm just stopping at 2 wide receivers. I'm getting 2 running backs. I'm leaving tight end alone, not even thinking about putting tight end in the flex, always going running back in the flex. So, and as far as how you start the draft, more times than not, you wanted to start with a wide receiver or a running back in your first pick. Only, I think about 5% of the teams started with a quarterback with their first pick, and 0 teams drafted a tight end with their first pick. So it's very important early in the draft to focus on running back and wide receiver, especially in that first round. So one of the things about this contest, if you can get a player that falls to you, like Trey McBride here, who had an ADP of 16, but he went at pick 28. This is the type of value that really can kind of make your lineup unique. And that's really something you want to think about when you're going against 56,000 other people. But we also want to go get our guys. So to make your stack work, this lineup probably had, like a Trevor Lawrence, Brian Thomas Jr. stack, was able to go and just get Brian Thomas Jr. at pick 18 ahead of ADP. So we saw that a lot. Just quarterbacks specifically and stacks. Go get your guy. If there is a way you see the slate playing out, you have to be aggressive to do that. And then last, top tier projections. I'm going to give you a little story. So last year, week 1 of the NFL season. Okay. And of course, it's not loading this now, which is fun. But week 1 of the NFL season, we had Anthony Richardson with the same projection as Josh Allen, 22.4. Now, Anthony Richardson was going in the 4th round at pick 24. Josh Allen was going in the first round at pick 4 with the same projection. So the winner of the Battle Royale week 1 last year, what they did is instead of taking Josh Allen with their first pick, they took Tyreek Hill with that first pick, who had a projection of 19. So, which was actually the top non-quarterback projection on the slate. They took Tyreek Hill. They waited on quarterback, went and got Anthony Richardson instead of Josh Allen, and the 2 versus 2 of Josh Allen plus name a wide receiver versus Anthony Richardson and Tyreek Hill was what you needed on the slate. You needed Anthony Richardson. You needed Tyreek Hill. That is the type of leverage that we teach you at DFS Army. That's the type of leverage that you get by being able to make those decisions because you have top tier projections as DFS Army does. So a little of what you can expect at DFS Army, but also a little of, what has won this contest over the past 2 years. So next thing I want to do, and we're about to hop into a draft here, guys. I've cheated a little bit, and I'm sorry about that. But typically this is going to be a first look draft, and my first draft I am going to put on here and just kind of walk through it with you. But because it's week 1, I was excited, and I kind of did a couple drafts beforehand. But we're going to really look at like ADP that what we're seeing in these drafts right now, and so we can kind of get a feel of what the field is overvaluing or undervaluing in these drafts relative to our projections at DFS Army. And we can kind of, see spots where we can potentially leverage the field. So what I'm seeing right now, Chase Brown, he's currently going off the board as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th running back off the board. But when we go over to our projections at DFS Army, we have him as the 3rd running back on the board. So that's a potential spot, I think, where the field is undervaluing Chase Brown. We also have Devin Achon just behind him. And, again, that's the 7th running back going off the board. We got him as the 4th running back. So that's something we really want to look at is, what is the field doing? Where is the field getting it wrong? And how can we potentially leverage that? So those are a couple guys that I think we are going to potentially look to target in our drafts. And another one here, Puka Nacua. We got Puka Nacua with a 16-point projection, currently 2nd behind Jamar Chase. And when we look at where Puka Nacua is going in drafts, he's currently going 7th. So kind of the same thing with Devin Achon, but he's actually projected as a 2nd overall wide receiver. So having said all that, let's hop into a Battle Royale draft, and we can get one of these out of the way and kind of start looking at the slate, getting a better feel of the slate ahead of week 1. It's Tuesday. You guys will probably see this on Wednesday, and we got a couple more people that we're waiting on. So speaking of, now, one of the things that we do at DFS Army is we obviously have top projections as rated by Daily Overlay, some of the best projections in the industry, the most accurate projections. And we actually even use prop projections, which Geek, CEO of DFS Army, would describe as the best proprietary projection system conceived. And what this is using the top sportsbook to make these projections. And I mean, we've seen time and time again just how accurate these projections can be from the top sports book. So whether you use our projections or the prop projections, you can kind of see obviously what can be best for you, and you can test that relative to what is the field doing, how are they projecting these guys. And obviously that is something that you get at DFS Army, our projection system. You get the coaching, teaching you how to build for specific contests. not just the Battle Royale, which is a large field GPP, but more like small field contests as well. So we have a tough decision to make here, guys, because we will be starting number 1. And we'll get back to a couple of things I was talking about here in a second. But do we want to just take Jamar Chase first overall? Do we want to mix it up? We want to go with Christian McCaffrey. I'm thinking what is probably going to make the most sense is we'll start with Jamar Chase first overall. And then there's really good value at the running backs. We can also do a little stack there with Chase Brown, David Achon. These are guys that are undervalued. We can get on the way back. We can get Jamar Chase here first overall, and then maybe, just maybe, Puka. Yeah, he probably ain't gonna make it back to us, but we can find another good wide receiver. So we are on the clock. We are going to go ahead and take Jamar Chase. So like I said, one of your first picks really needs to be wide receiver or running back. We went ahead and solidified that with Jamar Chase. We got the top projection on the slate at wide receiver. We bypassed Christian McCaffrey, who actually has a top projection on the slate. But I think there's good enough value at running back here that we're just going to double up, or definitely at the very least, we're going to get one of these guys that comes back around to us. So this is pretty predictable so far. Bijan Robinson, Christian McCaffrey, Malik Neighbors, Jahmyr Gibbs. So yeah, Malik has really been going off as the second wide receiver on the slate. The thing is, though, is when you look at the applied team total going on the road against a really good Washington team, I don't love that play, especially in a format like this is very touchdown dependent. It's not my favorite. So this is going pretty well so far. We saw Brian Thomas Jr. I like that pick. Jonathan Taylor doubled up at running back. Bowers. So we got a couple more picks, and then we should be able to get at the very least one of Chase Brown and one of David Achon. I would love to double tap them, but we'll see how this goes. Drake London. Don't do it. Don't do it. We're definitely taking Chase Brown here. Puka Nacua will probably be gone. I think we'll just do the thing, and we'll take Devin Achon as well, and then we will figure out the next pick. So we could potentially do a Joe Burrow stack with Chase Brown and Jamar Chase. In that scenario, I would not be opposed if we can get David Njoku so we can actually have a bring back. Let's say that game is the back and forth game that we're hoping it is. One of the highest totals on the slate. Let's say the Bengals defense continues to be the reason why, they lose games or they win shootouts essentially. And with Joe Flacco on the other side, much more confident in that happening. So after I took Achon, we got Evans, we got McBride, Daniels, Puka Nacua. So yeah, I knew he wasn't really going to make it back. So we kind of start thinking about another wide receiver who maybe projects well. And the field is not very high on. Nico Collins is still on the board. Let's see. Nico Collins actually went. Tet, Waddle. I could do a full onslaught stack with T. Higgins. Tough decisions. Terry McLaurin. Terry McLaurin would be a good pick as well. He has not been selected yet. There goes Joe Burrow. So need to start thinking about a quarterback now. And can I just stack one? So he took Amon-Ra St. Brown. At this point, I do think we will We'll wait on quarterback. I think we'll probably grab one in the last round. I don't really love any of these guys by themselves. Maybe we'll do Flacco. We will do Flacco to Njoku and get Flacco in the last round. Maybe that game does go off the way we want it to. Terry McLaurin, so I got a piece of the Washington Commanders, who are projected to score one of the highest team totals on the slate. He projects pretty well from, of what's left standpoint. Obviously, I could have got T. Higgins there, but I did want to overstack it without Joe Burrow. If I'd got Joe Burrow, I would have been perfectly happy putting T. Higgins there and doing, Burrow +3, but didn't want to overstack it. In this scenario, I think when Joe Flacco comes back, I can get Flacco to Njoku I have a Chase Brown and Jamar Chase bring back. So kind of game stacking that one. We got Devin Achon, who, projects pretty well against the Colts. And then we got McLaurin, who projects pretty decent as well. So, and see, Phil Beasley right here wanted to stack Joe Burrow with T. Higgins. So, a little contrarian without Chase. I like that. Love that. I love that. Started with Christian McCaffrey, Drake London, McBride. So, a lot of heavy hitters. He's basically saying Chase is not going to be the guy you need this week. The story that I'm telling is you need Joe Burrow plus T. Higgins this week. What I'm saying with this build here is you actually need Flacco. Chase Brown will get some of the tutties to keep Joe Burrow from being in the nuts. Jamar Chase will have a big enough game, but I really need Joe Flacco to Njoku to be the stack you need with this game going nuclear, but Chase Brown having a big day. So I think it's pretty good, first look draft for how things went. And by the way, again, so we do you have the domination station, which obviously works for FanDuel, works for DraftKings, but just the projections to be able to make these decisions in the Battle Royale drafts or any of the Underdog fantasy drafts. So we'll be doing a cheat sheet this year specifically for these Battle Royale drafts. Top plays based on projections, based on, where the field has these guys. I think as far as, top stacks, top plays that project the best, and then just value plays, some undervalued guys like we kind of went over here with Devin Achon and Chase Brown, of course, and, top leverage plays. This draft that we just saw go down, this guy, getting T. Higgins here, this would be like a leverage play for me with Jamar Chase going first overall. So there's obviously going to be other ones. That's something I will include in the cheat sheet. So to be a DFS Army subscriber, guys, to get access to this, obviously this is a video that I'm going to be doing each and every week, this first look draft, but to get access to all the tools, the coaching that we have, the cheat sheets, the tools, the domination station, which you just saw, which is essentially an optimizer, but also a projection system that you can use. We have, and also the Discord community, but we have a couple promos going on right now. Number one, you can use NFL 25 to get you $50 off for the entire season. This brings your price down from $299 to $249. Lock in the entire year, not even just the season, the year. This includes UFL package. This includes best ball. So you could do all this for NFL 25 for $50 off. Or my personal favorite, 20% off for life, guys. Kickoff 2025. We've never had this type of deal. 20% off for life. It's normally 20% off for your first month or 10% off for life. This is double that. This is an incredible deal. This gets you could do all sports. You could do NFL, any VIP subscription. Kickoff 2025 promo code at checkout. I will put this link in the video description. Little caveat to this. This is only for this week. So after kickoff, you will not get this deal anymore. So get it while you can. That's going to wrap it up for this one, guys. Thanks for joining me. Check back for another first look draft next week. We'll see you all in the Discord.